Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Explore the Universe, Introduction to Stargazing. And here is what we do a little bit about. If you're new to us here, don't worry about having missed stuff. We tend to cycle around the topics, and they're generally independent month to month. So it's easy to jump on the carousel at any time. We feature what stars are in the evening sky, some features on the moon, and touch on the things that happen, especially the cycles and the movement of the sun across the sky or the moon and the different patterns that happen. Originally, we were going to meet at the Queen Elizabeth Planetarium. We are now hoping that we can do this this autumn. Things are starting to look promising in that regard. And so we'll, as we are here, talk a bit, but what we'll be able to do there is step outside and point up at the real sky and use a small telescope at the moon. You can bring your telescope and you can make sure that it's all set up properly. We are focused on looking at things that you can see with your eyes. So we won't be talking about black holes or galaxy formation, which are really good topics that show up at our monthly meetings. But here we'll focus on what you can see with your eyes as well as a pair of binoculars. So the key to all this is, as much as you can, step outside and look up. We're past the crushing -30s, but even then, I encourage people just to step out and remain familiar with what's up in the sky. We're part of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada, and what we're trying to do here is help you on your way to earn the Explore the Universe certificate. It's a free pin and certificate for both members and non-members. And so I urge you to take a look at the link that's on the main website for these meetings. Click on Explore the Universe and download the PDF, print it out. And in about a year's time or so, you should be able to submit your observations and get the certificate and pin. So here's just a couple of overlapped sample pages. At a minimum, it's you just need to check a box that you've seen something, but we really encourage you to note down something of what you see. So there's a set of observing notes at the end, and it's a nice way of reminding yourself as well of what you have seen and what it looked like, and anything else that sort of struck you about what you've been looking at. The RASC, we're a society of over 5,000 people, and most of us are just sort of people off the street, so to speak. There's only a very small handful of us that have degrees in astronomy or are astrophysicists. So there's very few of those. We do everything from citizen science, there's astro imaging, and we also have these other certificates and pins that can be Explore the Moon, the Messiers, and New General Catalog. And also we provide ideas on how to take pictures. We're all here, we're hopefully come across as a friendly bunch of people. We do a whole bunch of things for people out there, but also for our members as well. We get publications that you see here, and we also provide these sorts of meetings for you to learn and join in. So with that introduction, we'll start our main. Okay, so here we are at the end of April, and we'll be talking a little bit about the stars out there. Berta will be talking about the moon, some double stars, star clusters, and I'll be finishing things off with a little bit about a comet that is, well, hopefully bursting on the scene, but more of that later. We start off as usual with just mentioning things that move in the sky and are bright, and that's the International Space Station. It it takes 90 minutes for it to do a complete circle, and as we get into these summer months, we will typically end up in a situation where you'll be able to see 3, if not 4, of these passes as it crosses the sky. It takes about 5 minutes for it to cross the sky. It's doing morning passes right now, so unless you're getting up at the crack of dawn, which is 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, the evening passes begin mid-month coming up. But even then, with the sunset being so late, even early evening passes are now in and around after 10 o'clock, and very quickly after 10:30. So this is from the heavensabove.com. You can sign in. It's completely free, and you can, when you get a list like this, it has all other satellites on there as well, but an easy click to get to the International Space Station passes. And if you click on one of them, you'll get a chart like this. Now I've added to it, but if we head outside May 19th, just before 11 p.m., the ISS will be crossing the sky just above Regulus and also above Arcturus here. And so the middle of the chart here is overhead. And if you put the S at the bottom of the chart as you look towards the sky, you need to be facing south for all of this to make sense. And so high overhead is the Ursa Major, but the Big Dipper are the brighter stars that we see. And part of that familiarization I was talking about, stepping outside for just 5 minutes, is to remind yourself of things, of the names out there. And for example, arc to Arcturus, take the arc of the handle of the Dipper, you come into Arcturus, and then you spike to the star Spica. And so with that little mnemonic, boom, you can remember the names of 2 of the major stars out there in the spring sky. If we swivel around to the north, and northwest, I've switched to the program Stellarium here. This is just a screen grab, so it's not I'm not running it actively at the moment because I wanted to add labels and choose the time just oh so precisely. But in the northwest, you'll see the bright star Capella and its constellation Auriga, this pentagon. The famous Cassiopeia, which we'll be seeing a lot of in the summer across the north, that'll just slowly scroll down to the east. We just refer to it as the W of Cassiopeia. Somehow the Greek mythology put a queen on a throne there, but I've never been able to see that. It's just a W to me. But if you take the middle star and go to the lower left of as we see the alphabet character W, we end up in the constellation of Perseus with its brightest star Merfac and the demon star Algol. I'll be showing you in a moment both the Greek and the Cree version of Perseus. But one of the reasons I've chosen Perseus for this month is that setting down in the corner just around 10 p.m. this evening, hopefully, where the skies are sort of okay, but just 5 degrees off the horizon is planet Mercury, and nearby are the Pleiades. Now this is actually for 2 nights from here, so Mercury will be a little bit lower, or actually the Pleiades will be a little bit higher. But what we're hoping to see is the appearance of a comet, which I'll be talking about a bit later. So MERFAC is one of the tougher names to remember. Most of us just call it Alpha Perseus, Alpha being the first letter of the Greek alphabet, typically is the brightest star in the constellation. So below that, as I said, the next brightest star is Algol. And here is the essentially the Greek version of the all-around warrior Perseus, who slay the monster Cetus, the sea monster, and freed Andromeda. But here he is with the head of the sea monster, in this case, the Gorgon and Medusa, and her eye is the what is sometimes called well, it's a variable star, but it was once seen as a very sort of sinister star because it faded in brightness and came back. So it's one of the very few super bright stars that regularly caught the attention of ancient astronomers, and they knew it was something evil. So it kind of made sense to put Medusa there. The demons. Looking over to the Cree mythology, we have something that doesn't quite fit the Greek mythology. No surprise, everybody, all the cultures' mythologies are different. And this one, Cleomedes, is Grandmother Spider, and essentially the W of Cassiopeia would be essentially her heart, the same, or the central part of the body, and you can see the curving lines of stars coming out would be her legs. So that, it's like, oh yeah, that really does kind of make sense. And I'm looking forward to the next time I'm out under a dark sky to get a better sense of appreciation of this very large constellation. And over to Berta.
Okay, thank you, Alistair. So as Alistair has mentioned, we are working here. So the order that we follow for these slides is the same order that the Explore the Universe certificate has. You can, as Alistair has said, you can print out a copy. It's free. You can download it from the RASC website. It's the Explore the Universe certificate. And it's like a checklist of things to see, starting by constellations. And so in every month, we select objects that are relevant to that month in the sky. Alistair has just explained a couple of constellations that are visible this time of the year. So I'm going to move on to the next section of the Explore the Universe, which is the moon. So you are guided to look at the moon for a while and learn its cycles. And also learn the objects that one can see on the surface of the moon. Most of the things are big things that one can see with binoculars. Today we are going to focus on the lunar basin, Mare Fecunditatis, which is as indicated on the slide. You can find it in there, and it's something that you can see early in the moon cycle, just around the third day after the new moon, when the moon is still a small crescent. You can start seeing Mare Fecunditatis appearing. This is a large impact crater that formed around 3.5 billion years ago. And later lava flowed into it and filled this basin, and that's why it's a little bit darker. It's because it was full of lava and now it's made of basalt stone. And so Mare Fecunditatis, as I say, can be seen around the third day when the moon is a crescent. Can you move to the next slide, please, Alistair? Thank you. I think there is a slide in between. Yeah. And so after talking about Mare, now we normally talk always about one of the basins that you can see, and then we highlight one of the craters that is also listed, one of the ones that are listed in the Explore the Universe certificate. So this month we want to highlight Cleomedes, which is again a crater that you can see around the time when the moon is 3 days old, more or less, after the new moon. Which for us is going to be about May 3rd or 4th. It would be a good time to see this crater. You want to observe, in general, the best time to observe any feature on the surface of the moon is when that feature is close to the terminator. The terminator is the area between day and night, is the line that goes from the top to the bottom of the moon that basically distinguishes the illuminated side to the dark side, or the side that is not illuminated. And when a crater is near the terminator, you can see it has a lot of light and shadows. So it's not flat at all. There is a lot of contrast, and you can see how the walls and the features of that crater, or any feature in general, a mountain range or something like that, you can see it way more clearly when it's close to the terminator. So that's why Cleomedes, the best time to see it is around the 3rd or 4th day of the moon cycle. This crater is located near Mare, and yes, thank you. And it's easily found with binoculars. It's around 126 kilometers wide, and it's eroded. It has been eroded over time, so it's not as sharp as it was at the beginning, and it has secondary craters inside. Thank you, Alistair. Yes, so you can, this is a picture taken by by the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter from NASA. It's a orbiter that was going around the moon and was able to take very high quality pictures of things. And you can see this crater with the secondary craters inside. You can see that is actually nicely eroded. So the features are not sharp at all. Compared, for example, to the features that are inside of the craters inside. So that tells us that it's actually much older. Yeah, thank you, Alistair. Now, and so the next section in the Explore the Universe certificate is solar system objects. But right now the planets are morning items, and so most people are not willing to get up so early, well, other than Alistair, to actually go and see them. So I think we will cover the planets again in the fall when we can start see them again on the night sky. So we are going to move to the next section of the certificate, which is the deep sky objects. And today we are going to cover one of the star clusters that I personally find is very pretty in the sky. So the Coma star cluster in Cancer, it's a beautiful group, very spread out group of stars, and it's actually better seen with binoculars than telescope because it's actually uses such a big space in the sky that if you look at it with a telescope, you only see a region of it. So to be able to see the whole cluster, it's actually a best thing to see it with binoculars. And it's a large group of stars that lies between Leo and Bootes, and is made of several chains of magnitude 5 and 6 stars. And the legend related to this group of stars, which I find really pretty, is just to see, is that the curl of the princess is one of the curls of Queen Berenice's hair, which she offered to the goddess Aphrodite for the safe return of her husband from battle. So her husband was in battle, and she gave that curl as an offer to goddess Aphrodite, and somehow that curl made it into the sky. And it's a beautiful group of stars that has very wavy shape, and so it matches the legend very well. And is known since classical times, and it was previously known to represent the tail of the Leon from the constellation Leo, but then it graduated to be Queen Berenice's hair. is 280, about 280 light years away, and it's a great scene, a great object to observe with binoculars, even from the city. I can see it from my backyard, and I live just right down, almost downtown. Can you move on to the next slide, please, Alistair? Thank you. And how to find it? So you have to look around southeast around 11 p.m. On these nights, and you look for the nebula, which is the brightest star at the tail of the constellation Leo. And then you can find Arcturus on the other side, which is a very bright star from the constellation Bootes. And so if you locate those two, then there is actually kind of an empty area of space, because the constellation Coma Berenices is not a bright constellation, so it cannot be seen from the city. But with your binoculars, you will be able to find the cluster in there, as Alistair is circling with the mouse. And that's the area that you should be pointing at your binoculars, more or less between those two, between the nebula and Arcturus, and then moving a little bit up in the sky. You will find it. Moving on, so I'm not highlighting any other dark sky object this month, because, well, later in summer, there will be a lot of things to be seen, but also because I personally find that this time of the year is really hard to do astronomy in Edmonton, because it doesn't really get dark, even though the summer has a lot of beautiful objects to look at around Sagittarius and whatnot, but it's also not the best time to do astronomy, in my personal opinion, because it gets dark very late. But anyway, I have two double stars that I'm highlighting. So the Explore the Universe also points at double stars as objects to find and observe. And the first one, which is a visual binary. So it's two stars that they're very close to each other from our point of view, but they are actually not related to each other. Some binaries are actually orbiting each other, but these two are just a visual binary, so they are not related to each other. It's 17 Coma Berenices. It's just a beautiful pair of stars, and it's very close to this to the star cluster that we have mentioned. So as you are looking for the MEL to the the star cluster that I just mentioned before, you can as well go and try to find 17 Coma Berenices, because it's in the region. Thank you, Alistair. And the next double star that we have is one that I guess everyone who is a little bit interested in astronomy learns very quickly, which is the one that you can see up north in the sky as part of the constellation Ursa Major. This constellation is, I guess, the constellation that most people learn when they are a kid. You can see it year-round in the sky, and it's always in the north area when you look north. And so Mizar and Alcor in Ursa Major is a double star that you can certainly clearly see with binoculars and separate. And some people even claim that they can see it by eye, certainly not me. It's thought to actually be a physical system, so they are thought to be related. And Mizar, if you actually have a telescope, you could actually split it itself. Mizar is a double one too. So you can see that in this image taken by one of the members of the RASC here in Edmonton, Mizar is actually a double star itself. But Alcor and Mizar are actually a double star that it's very easily seen with binoculars in the north sky. And I think that's all for me. Thank you. So I pass the baton to Alistair again.
Thank you, Berta. Okay, on to the last segment here of our evening. We're going to look at comet O3 PanSTARRS. PanSTARRS is an acronym like many other things in astronomy. So Panoramic Survey Telescope and Rapid Response System. So it's one of the telescopes that helps to look for rogue asteroids on a collision course with Earth. That's a key element to its funding. But along the way, it picks up anything else that moves. And it surveys the entire sky in something like 3 days. And so if something has moved from last night to tonight, the software highlights it and reports it. Most of the things, of course, that are moving, we already know about, but every now and then you get something new, and every now and then something from the distant edges of our solar system come in. And so the big question is, for comets, will it be glorious? Will it fizzle? Will it just be whatever? And the short answer is we've got to look and be ready to act, because something like this, it can literally, well, this one, it might be best for 2 or 3 nights and then that's it. So you can't afford to wait on this one. There we go. So what is a comet? Just briefly, it's a small 3 kilometers across, a dirty snowball. So pebbles, dust, snow, ice, water ice. So the same H2O that we have plenty of. And as these little chunks from the primordial solar system come in towards the sun, the radiation heat from the sun evaporates the ice, and then the dust particles are now free to launch off of the surface of the comet and out into what we call the coma. So we've had a couple of spacecraft visit comets, these in the last while. The first one was in 1986, so not that long ago was our first comet passage. And it turns out the comet surfaces are very dark. They look light in the sun, but so does a road surface. It looks very bright in the sun. Well, not very bright, but it looks brighter in the sun than you might think. And so a couple of summers ago, we had this fantastic comet going across our northern sky. But it was originally forecast to be barely visible to the unaided eye from a dark side, okay in binoculars, but just a so-so comet. And all of a sudden, it kicked into high gear as it got close to the sun and put on this beautiful display of the dust tail. So the released dust reflects sunlight, so that's why it generally looks white. And as any of you who clean the dust off of your tables and mantelpieces and furniture knows that dust is generally glows white in sunlight. But it also some of the molecules, organics even, can split apart in the intense sunlight and produce what are called gas tails pointing away from the sun. So we're hoping that this comet PanSTARRS will turn into something like this. We just simply don't know. Like this, the prediction was that this was not going to happen, but it did. So we're kind of hoping that this PanSTARRS will also perform a lot better than what it is. Currently, we expect PanSTARRS to be about 4th magnitude, so just visible from the with the unaided eye, but no big glorious tail like this, but we can hope. So where is it going to be? So as it turns out, it's just a few days. From here is what we're going to see something like this. I've actually, if you call up your own Stellarium or Sky Safari, it might not even show PanSTARRS until you zoom in really closely. I've gone into the database and boosted the brightness of PanSTARRS on paper, so to speak, in the database so that it shows up here. So it might, if it's really active, kick into a high gear like this and start glowing for us nicely. So this is the 1st of May. Tonight I'm going to go and have a look. It will be considerably down here, as will Mercury will be a little bit lower. But Mercury is slowly shifting around the solar system, as is the Earth, and the Pleiades drops by. So this is a real binocular feast for the eyes. So even if the comet doesn't really show up, make sure you get out there, put on your calendar, May 1st. There's the oh-so-thin crescent moon that's just come out from in front of the sun. The Hyades star cluster will be there. Mercury will be, it'll have faded from what it is now, but it's still visible with the unaided eye as the brightest thing in this part of the sky, even brighter than the star Aldebaran. So make sure you have a look. And then the following night, as you can see, Mercury has shifted up. The moon, of course, moves considerably from one night down here to up here, more than a binocular field. The Earthshine on May 2nd here should be just absolutely splendid. Still a thin crescent moon, and the reflected Earth light goes up to the moon, bounces off the non-lit side because the sun is shining from the lower right here, and back to us, and that's what we call Earthshine. And so again, the binocular view will just be fantastic, going from the Hyades to the Pleiades. The crescent moon will be the thing that sort of catches the eye the most, but make sure you check out Mercury there. And hopefully at least the nucleus of PanSTARRS, if we're really lucky, if it decides to split apart and expose a whole bunch of fresh ice and dust, then the tail will suddenly leap out, and it will go, it will point away from the sun, because the sun has enough energy to push the dust away from the comets, and it'll be pointing up. The gas tail, if there is one, will be just a little bit off to the left here. But it's still all pretty low in the northwest. And here is a diagram that shows, well, the blue line is the horizon here. And here's Perseus, or the W of Cassiopeia, just off to the left here. And over the course of the following nights, the comet, this is every other night here, so you have to add one day in here. So it scoots north very quickly. And hopefully the tail will light up. Some of you may notice or remember when you're going around cleaning dust off, that sometimes the sun angle to the dust, it just lights up and it's super obvious. Well, that's what's going to happen with the dust coming from the tail of the comet. The sun is directly below the screen here, and the angle is really favorable to just light up this tail. So there's some very positive things going for it, but it might just not, it might fizzle. It might actually, I've seen other comets do this, where as they approach the sun, instead of being a compact, dirty snowball, it's just a very loose, fluffy snowball. And as it gets close to the sun, it just all dissipates very quickly, and you can barely see anything at all. So we've got the full range of possibilities from, you might see something that's as good or even better than Comet Neowise of a couple of years ago, or you might just see nothing. And it's really hard to tell, because sometimes it might be, well, I tried last night, I didn't see anything, I'm not going to bother. Well, maybe during the overnight and daytime period, that's when the nucleus split, and all of a sudden the following night it's very obvious in binoculars. And then if you wait until you hear the news that it's good, well, maybe that was its one whoosh, and by the night after that it's already fading and going. So it's basically it's around sort of 10, quarter past 10 to 10:30 at night will be the times to be looking to the northwest for comet PanSTARRS. So cross your fingers and hope. That's it. So as we're some of you heard as we're starting up the session that our next one in May, I'm not going to be here, but we haven't quite decided by the sound of it. I can prepare my segment ahead of time, and Berta might present both. We'll see how that goes. So keep an eye on the website and Facebook, and we'll know whether or not we'll be continuing on. So are there any questions? Good to know that I nailed it hard.
I just want to say that I've added an extra slide showing PanSTARRS path in the sky as it. I just took this image from the Sky Safari and just put it in a slide. So you may, if you want to show it, it just shows, which is pretty much the same view.
You'll have to share your screen though.
Oh, I know, because I put it in the slides, so it's you should have access to it too. I'm happy to share my screen though, but
you may as well, because
share screen if I'm not allowed.
Hang on a sec here.
But I mean, it's pretty much similar to the slide that Alistair has shown. It's basically saying that PanSTARRS is on the west, and it's climbing up. So it will be close to the horizon in the weeks that it should be probably in the slide before that.
Okay, it's going to let me leave. Oh, here it is.
So you have it in there, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. So if it's the same view that Alistair has in his program, but made by Sky Safari, which makes so you can see its path going up north in the sky. And what the view that we are having right now is looking west as the sun is setting. This is where it will be today, April 28th. And April 29th, May 1st, May 3rd. And so if you find the Pleiades and Mercury, like Alistair mentioned, is going to pass nearby. So you can see it in there. It's just the same view that you saw in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Mercury and the Pleiades, so when I was looking, when I found Mercury almost a week ago now, to the unaided eye, I could not see the Pleiades, but in binoculars, it was, of course, fairly straightforward, and always nice just to shift back and forth between the two.
And just to be clear, Mercury now is a binocular object, isn't it?
No, it should still be visible to the unaided eye. It hasn't faded that much yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Yeah, because it goes. Sorry.
Are we gonna be able to see that comet, Alistair?
Well, as I said, it could be absolutely easy, or it could have. It may already have fizzled. We just don't know. I've asked a friend from Arizona, because they get a little earlier look, but he said he hadn't even bothered trying because he felt the twilight was going to be too bright. So I have not seen any reports, yes or no, as to what it's doing. So we're really, it's up to us to have a look at it, and we're sort of perfectly positioned here to see it because it just vaults almost straight up from the horizon from our latitudes. I did contact someone in Hawaii, and he said the angle's really bad. Everything is canted over to the left so much that the comet sort of remains in twilight and then sets in twilight. But for us here, it goes up. So hopefully. And I don't know if you remember hearing about Comet Leonard back in December. It was fairly nice, but it was a morning binocular object. And then as it shifted into evening sky, we kind of lost it in the twilight. It was just a so-so comet by then. And then all of a sudden it kicked into high gear and put on this huge tail that ended up on the astronomy picture of the day. And that's why you just don't know without looking.
And so, Alistair, if an amateur is interested on finding information about how the comet is looking today, we thought before going out and looking, where should they go and check?
The only thing I can suggest is check our local Facebook page for it, because a lot of the comet sites that I have seen, they're often put together by amateur astronomers, and so sometimes they don't get updated for 1 or 2 weeks. So there's very little out there that's sort of real time, and it's so close to the sun in twilight that the professional telescopes do not point this closely to the sun. So we don't even have professional data on what PanSTARRS is doing. Yeah, it's completely up to us, and check back on our Facebook page. I'll be heading out this evening as long as skies remain clear, and we'll see. But even then, if I say I didn't see it tonight, that doesn't mean anything for tomorrow night or the night after. So, although if it's doing really well, that just increases the chances that it will be okay.
I'm thinking for my untrained eye, it'll be a snowball's chance.
Yep.
But we'll look. Thank you.
All right, any other question? Any of you are more than welcome to ask, or if you feel, you can also write it in the chat, and we can monitor the chat and see if you have questions. In the meantime, I want to remind everyone that the observatory at the University of Alberta is open to the public on Thursdays from 12 to 1 from noon to 1 in the afternoon on Thursdays to look at the sun. Is a free entry, and you just come. It's normally very quiet. Masks are strongly recommended. And the sun is a lot of fun to be looking at lately. So it's certainly something that is worth looking. Shona asked, do we expect that comet to be visible at twilight?
We can only check by looking. And there was a previous question, what part of the sky? Northwest. So basically where the sun sets is look above where the sun sets. So but you have to wait a bit more than an hour after sunset. But in where the twilight glow is, that main part, just in that area, look for the Hyades and Pleiades and Mercury. And Mercury is the only thing that will really Mercury and the Hyades are the only things that you'll pick up in your binoculars. And then tonight, the comet will be below them, so low in going through a lot of atmosphere. So it will have to be super bright too for us to see it tonight. But I like giving these things a go. Yeah, and Mercury can be surprisingly easy once you find it in binoculars. As the twilight dims, it's like, nope, nope, nope. Oh, there it is. And so give it a chance. So yeah, somewhere around 10 p.m. to 10:15. And especially, yeah, if you have the binoculars, that makes it a lot simpler. But there are no other bright stars in the area. And the second brightest thing will be the star Aldebaran. So, yeah. Oh, of course, don't forget Jeff Robertson here. Next week will be presenting his What's Up in the Sky this month. So he'll be talking more about the planet lineup in the morning, and we're in a lousy spot at this latitude. I've seen some astronomy pictures of the day where the planets are lined up almost vertically off the horizon in a nice dark sky. What you might see on your news feed, planet lineup in the morning, and it's a dark sky with these bright dots. And for us, it's hidden in the twilight and very low. So I got to get my angles here. Very low to the horizon in the morning sky, and it's about 5:30, 5:25 in the morning, getting minute by minute earlier and earlier as the sun continues to rise earlier. But Jupiter is climbing out of the murk towards Venus, and Venus will be going the other way. So yeah, give that a look.
And I saw a very lovely picture taken from Sydney, Australia,
Yeah.
of them lined up almost straight up, which we don't get. But as I've often heard when I've complained about our winter, you chose to live here.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for dropping by, and we will see you next week at Jeff's presentation. Look forward to that, and fingers crossed for the comet. Okay, have a good night, everyone.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye.
Alistair.
Bye.
Thanks, Berta.